Well, good morning. Still morning, that's right. Good to be here. Thank you so much, Barry and team, for having us here. Truly, it's a joy. It's an honor to be here and to go ahead and just share some things with you that we've kind of learned on the way together, which was not always easy or, happened just by itself. It was very intentional that we had to do this. And we wanted to talk about together in ministry, but balancing, all this crazy thing about family, spouse, ministry, kids, date night, all-night prayers. I mean, all those kind of things. How do you really work with that? Because in our life, 5 years into our marriage was also 5 years into missions and 5 years into ministry. I faced a burnout, and our pastor at that time advised us to get divorced. So once a pastor says that and advises that, it's not always a good sign. So we learned some things, and let me maybe just go ahead and set this up by saying when we avoid difficult conversations, we trade short-term discomfort for long-term dysfunction. And that's something we had to learn. How do we talk about this stuff? How do we address, the elephant in the room? So anyway, we're going to share a few things. Hopefully, you will learn some things from that and just get inspired. I guess, again, I said, these are things that we had to do intentional. Nobody actually sat down with us and says, okay, here's 10 things that'll help you. We had to kind of write the book ourselves back in those days. And the proof is we're standing here. 11 grandkids later, 4 kids, 2 dogs.
No, the dog I'm burying.
Are you on?
I don't think I am. Testing. How do I do this?
There we go.
No, that's not it.
No.
Nope. Well,
Here.
there, it's on now.
It is on.
Okay. I'm here. Okay. Yeah. We had our firstborn was born in South Africa. Our 2 middle children were born in Zimbabwe, Africa. And our lastborn was born in Nashville, Tennessee. She was not happy about that. She said, how come you can't just go somewhere like China and at least have somewhere special for me to be born? And I was like, come on, you can be president of the United States. And she's like, oh, Mom, but I'm born in Denver, Colorado. He's born in Zurich, Switzerland. So we're all a mess. Okay, somebody asks us where we're from. We just look at them and we finally decided wherever we're living is where we're from. Because otherwise it's too complicated. So if somebody says, yeah, you sound like an American, I said, yes, I originate in Colorado. And that's the only way we can do it. But we have a wonderful family, and all our kids are in their 30s now. My oldest son, Justin, has 4 children. My daughter, Jessica, who's next, has 3. Joel has 2, and Janelle has 1. And we just have a brand new baby that was born August, and that's Janelle's, was born August 12th. So we're so excited. So once again, if you add all those up, it adds up to 10. We had one that's in heaven already. So that was very hard for us. We all went through a really difficult time with that. But I got to say, after living in Africa, living in the United States for a while, we had a term where we were missionaries to America. And then we had we've been in Europe for 23 years now.
23 years.
It just blows me away that we've been there that long. But because of that, we've had to learn that, as a missionary family, we've had to learn how to balance things. And, if you're called to missions, your kids are called to missions. And it means God will provide. But you still have to take care and balance your family, balance the time with your wife, balance. Just because you're called to the ministry does not mean that you leave on the wayside your wife and your children. Okay? And I think it's really important that we realize, because especially we can get so involved with the call that we lose everything else around it. And I think there's a lot of young people. I see some young families in here, and I think this is really important. We are empty nesters now, but we've but we've got to be able to just be able to have this message out there so that you don't lose sight on what's really, really important. Because family is what is all God's all about.
Yeah.
When I just heard Jim speaking, I was thinking, it is not just about us being a church. It is about us being a family. Everywhere I go in the world, I have family. And that's what it's all about. It's about the Father wanting to get each one of us back into his family, and us telling him how to get there. So, very important family. Go ahead.
My turn.
All your turn.
All right. We get along well. Okay, the first point is to prioritize and to set boundaries. That's one thing that I did not know to begin with, because growing up in a home where my dad did not affirm me, but I needed affirmation. And so I grew up kind of wanting to do well, wanting people to say, well done, good job. And that created kind of a vacuum growing up. So when I got into ministry, then for me it was the harder I work, the more I do, the more students I have in my Bible school, the more the pastor went ahead and said, Desmond, well done, great job, the more I actually just changed gears and went faster. And so we did that. I did that for the first 5 years in ministry, which was also the first 5 years in missions and the first 5 years for us in marriage. So marriage was kind of left way behind. For me, ministry. Actually, at that time, Sandy would bring the kids to the Bible school. I was leading a Bible school. I was director of 6 different Bible schools. I wrote curriculums for all the different schools, which was just like a 24/7 kind of a job. So she would bring the kids in the pajamas to the office. I would kiss them goodbye, wrestle around the carpet a bit in my office, and say goodnight, and she went back home with them. Birthday parties, I would show up, basically when the picture time was. So I'm there behind the cake with the family, but I couldn't even tell you, if I look at the picture, what kid's birthday it was, because I just came for the pictures. And then I went back to the office, because I was so sure the more I work for God, the more I do for him, the more he will be pleased, and the easier this whole life, ministry, everything, marriage will be. And of course, it did not go that way. So setting boundaries, when the wheels came off, basically, it forced us to set boundaries. It forced us to talk about this thing, this beast called marriage, and it forced us to go ahead and to start talking about these things and becoming students of this thing called marriage, because we honestly thought we had prophecies, we had some big names. Sumrall, Macaulay's, Cope, all these great big names prophesy over us, lay hands on us, and we thought we've got this thing licked. This is going to be easy, walk in the park. Yeah, didn't work that way. So prioritize, that means family is first. First God, then Sandy, and then the kids, and then of course ministry. If you mix that up and your primary becomes your secondary and vice versa, everything becomes very gray. And the harder you work, the worse it gets, because you're trying to make a round peg fit into a square hole, and it doesn't go that way. It just exhausts you, basically, which was happened with me.
And on top of that, the woman is the one who gets super frustrated and getting to the point where you start resenting God, you resent the ministry, you resent your kids, you resent your husband, and it is not a good scene. And it starts to trickle down, and it gets pretty hard after that. So then it takes someone who's got master skill and absolute miracle to bring it out of that. And I must say, by the time when that pastor said to me, he said, you have grounds for divorce. And I said, look, he says, do you love your husband? I said, I choose to love my husband, and I know God can fix this. I said, he didn't run himself into the ground on his own. You put these stipulations. And if anybody does this to you, talking about being hurt, if anybody is telling you you have to be there 24/7 every single day, forget it. Say, no, that is not going to happen. You have to make the decisions to put some boundaries up.
We were asked for a lifetime commitment from this pastor. And which wouldn't even happen because our visa was not renewed. So we had to leave the country.
Oh, and if you didn't do that, you were a hireling.
Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody's manipulating you, stop it and go the other direction.
And really, you only realize these things once you're out of that situation. Because when you're in it, everything seems to be like going great because you're all talking the same talk, you know, but once you're out of it, your eyes open, you can see, oh my gosh, this is just not what, you know, I thought it was. And let me just put the question to rest here. There was no moral failure, all right?
Exactly.
That was not the reason why the pastor said that, but I just had no more control over my thoughts. I had no more control over my mind. I couldn't even change a thought. I couldn't, you know, think about my glasses, think about the microphone. I couldn't change that. It was like a carousel going, and I was stuck on it. So anyway, that was just kind of the whole burnout thing from that. But then the next thing is with time management. We had a huge problem when it comes to getting to church on time. Anybody with kids? I tell you what, those 15 minutes drive on Sunday morning was like crossing the Grand Canyon. It was just like, days before we're thinking like, oh no. And of course, I have to be spiritual. I have to be the pastor. I have to be in my A game, you know, and she has to have the kids because I'm the pastor. She's the wife. And that doesn't go very well either.
So he's sitting in the car beeping the horn, and I'm like, I am going to kill him. Okay, so I'm like here I am with my kids. One is just sicked up all over himself. I have to clean him all up and change his whole clothes. Okay, the next kid still wants to nurse some more. I'm like, are you kidding me?
So we had 3 kids, 3 diaper bags, you know, and of course Bible. Back in those days, you had the big nice Bible with the big old zipper around it, you know. And so anyway, I'm in the car. I'm like, really? Okay, I'm honking the horn. And like, how difficult can this be? It's just 3 kids, you know. And so she comes around the house, the corner, and she's got bags and everything, you know. And I mean, she's like flustered. And I wasn't helping the situation at all.
So we decided, we'd had this coaching that was really, really helpful. And it may help some of you as well. And that is that he's not the problem, I'm not the problem, although it looks like we're both a really big problem. But this is the problem. We're not getting to church on time. So instead of us accusing one another, we decided to tackle this together.
Yeah.
Okay? We are Team Frey. Whoever you're married to, you are that team, okay? And together you can solve these issues. So we need to get together. We need to get there on time together.
If you move the conversation from we to me or I, you'll also say, you said, I didn't, you know, but you said, and the you ping pong thing creates 2 teams, and nobody wants to lose. And so by saying we, you and me, we love each other, we said yes at the altar, we're on this thing together, what is the problem? And we put it on the table like an obstacle, it can be an egg or whatever, and you can say, that is the problem. How do you and I solve that problem? That's the 2 teams, it's not us together.
So trying to get to church on time, let me tell you what we did. He suggested that the night before we set out everybody's clothes, everything. We're talking underwear, socks, shoes, everything for each person. It's done the night before. The bags are packed the night before. Everything is done the night before. Then
breakfast was ready, everything.
I take care of the baby. He takes care of the older kids. So then I'm not doing everything on my own.
She gets up early, I sleep in.
Yeah, right. Probably actually the opposite. Yeah. But anyway, he's a much more morning person than I am, for sure.
All right. Anyway, so we went ahead and did that. And the first time we practiced this, we actually got to church 15 minutes before time. And we sat in the car and we looked at each other thinking like, really? You know, like, yeah, we conquered this. You know, we did this. And
To this day, we still do this.
Yes.
Our clothes are set out the night before. And now with all 4 of our kids, they all of them practice the same thing so that they're on time. And I'm very proud of them because, this is a real, especially living in Switzerland, you are on time,
So of course now it's different. I mean, my walker is ready, my teeth are ready. Everything is kind of prepared.
Yeah, right.
No. But the third thing is something that Sandy really did was delegate and seek for help.
Yeah. Ladies, there is no excuse to say, hey, I'm an island unto myself and I have to do it all. You are not Wonder Woman. And especially if you're working in the church or you're doing, even if you're just doing everything on your own at home, you don't have to be by yourself doing this. There should be, within your church family, you should be connecting with other moms. You shouldn't be doing this alone. I had other moms that I would just connect with and say, hey, I'll take your kids for 2 hours while you clean your house tomorrow morning. Will you take mine on Friday? And we'd work it out. And I would watch their kids and she would watch mine. And it was hard because I had 4 kids. So usually I found somebody who had more, at least 3, because 2, they don't know how to handle 4 kids. And 2 of their own.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, okay, 3 or 4, then we're good, because then how to handle multiples, and after that it gets easier. But it really, really helped to not be all by yourself. And God says that He gives you spiritual moms and dads, sisters and brothers in the Lord. And I am so grateful for that because that helped me survive.
The next thing we really worked on very intentionally was quality family time. And it sounds a little bit of a cliche, but I'll tell you what, quality time is different than just time spent. So quality time sometimes for Sandy with me is different than my quality time with her. So for me, quality time with her is to get on my BMW machine and we're just going to go for 4 hours through the Black Forest. That is spending quality time with her. Well, her quality time with me is watching Hallmark movies, on the couch with the box of cookies, and some tissues.
Especially at Christmas. Come on.
And
yes, ladies. Hallelujah. Yeah.
And
my husband's the one crying. I'm not.
I was going to say, I never.
It's not me. It's
I never
him.
cry, but I say, honey, is the heat turned up because it's really getting dry, inside.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, and that's something we had to find out. What is quality time for me? Greg Rochelle said something that I just love him in his pastoral coaching thing, where he said for him, a relaxed time is not something just sitting watching a movie. He had to have an active, mind-challenging activity for him to calm down. So he learned how to fly, or taekwondo, or something else. So I don't fly like that, and I don't do taekwondo.
No.
We do wrestle sometimes, but it's not really, that's a different topic. But anyway, we're going to find something, what's good for me. And sometimes I need to have my quality time just for me to come down, and she has hers. But we do so much together. And something we do actually enjoy is to go to a spa. Spend the day just, hang out at the spa. And no, I don't get my nails done. Feet, yeah, I can get that done. But mostly because I can't clip my toenails. It's so far away. So I get someone to do that for me now, and it works great. Okay.
Yeah, well, also quality family time with your children is super important. Right now with my daughter, it's so cute with her first baby girl. And she's already learning that she must establish a routine for this baby to have security. And that's our biggest need as women, as little girls. We need security. Children need security. If you have a routine, it is going to make your life so much easier. And when you have at least 3 kids, maybe 4, you have to have a routine or you're crazy, because you really need it to organize. And but I have to say that I've watched each one of my kids get into a routine like this. And when I was at her house and she's still got this tiny little baby, she's like, I'm going to do everything that you did, like what you did with us, Mom. So here she is with this tiny little baby, and she's reading to the baby before she goes to bed. I'm like, oh, bless, look at her do this. And I mean, this tiny little baby. And then she'll sing to her and she'll pray with her, and then it's time for bed, even though she wakes up all night long. So I said, but it's already starting to put those things in place. And of course, my other children are all doing the same thing. And I put a love for reading into my children at a very early age because I started this when they were tiny. And so I would do it, or Desmond would do it, but we would always have the same thing. Go upstairs, brush your teeth, go to the bathroom, get your jammies on, and meet us on our bed. And our bed was the special place where they gathered together, and it was like a little nest. And we would read, we would pray together. And do you know, by praying together and praying the word together, that my youngest daughter, who should be a lawyer or something, this girl can talk, and she's going to be a psychologist. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Psychologist. She's just graduating in December. So proud of her.
Straight A
student.
Never had a B in her life.
Amazing. But this child,
Those people.
she can wiggle her way out of anything. So that's why I thought she should definitely be a lawyer or something.
Yeah.
But I just got to say that she, where is I going with this anyway? Anyway, what were we talking about?
No, but the word.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Okay. So she's in school, and the teacher says, he says, because of Job, God put sickness on you to make you better. So she says, excuse me. And she's like 8 years old. She says, excuse me. She says, you tell me where in the Bible it says that Jesus ever put sickness on a person. He never did. It says he healed all who were oppressed of the devil. He healed people. He never said, God put this on you to teach you a lesson. So she says, you show me and I'll believe you. Otherwise, I think you're teaching the wrong thing. And the guy goes, I'm going to search because I know it's in there. So he comes back the next day, this teacher, and says, you know what? You're right. He says, don't you ever back down. Here's a little candy bar. I just want to say thank you. You taught me instead of me teaching you. Thank you. And don't you ever change it. And the children around her were saying, how do you know the Bible so well? She says, because we say it every night together. Because of the way we pray, the way we talk, sitting down at the breakfast table, on the way to school, in going to bed, just talking the word and talking about things. It's our way of life in our family. We don't just sit down and have, I know people who sit down and have their regular Bible study times. That's great for you. For us, it worked all the way through life. So through life, it says talking and teaching your children, training them.
When Sadie and I met, we were both in Bible school. So most of our conversation was just talking about what did you learn today and what did I learn, and we exchanging scriptures and what the meaning is and that. And so to this day, we probably do this, 4 or 5 times a week where we talk about what we learned, what we heard, and just talking about the word. So it's so deep in the fabric of our lives, our marriage, our culture, that the kids almost had no chance but to actually fall in the same line with that.
And we still do it today, even with our kids. Our kids will call us and say, Mom, you've got to hear, this book was so amazing. It opened my eyes to certain things that, in the word, and it's just so cool, so I love it. Yes.
Like 30
okay, go ahead.
We're going to keep going here.
All right.
All right. Where are we at? Point what?
Quality family time. So we're going on to 5.
Number 5, open, honest communication. I'm going to keep this short because for me playing semi-professional hockey, ice hockey, I can be honest in a locker room. Because those guys have seen me with the towel, without the towel. It's like very open and honest. And for me, that was really no problem, to be honest. With her, she wasn't my friend, she was my spouse. And so dealing with her in an open, honest, I couldn't talk about certain things. She wasn't my friend, she was my wife. But friendship is what takes the marriage to the distance. So somewhere that has to switch, and she has to become my friend, really my buddy, and talk about everything. And that's something I had to learn really intentionally. And she had no problem talking about things, from the start.
He would come home from work and he answered the telephone.
Don't talk about that.
Oh, I got to tell him.
No, that's not a bad example.
And I'm sitting here going, so how was your day? It was great. I said, so what happened? Oh, not much. It was just a normal day. I was like, okay. The phone rings, he answers it, and it's his friend. And he starts talking and telling him all this stuff that went on the day. And I'm standing at the corner and looking at him going,
No. I'm on the phone, all right? And he's asking specific questions, not like, how was your day? How was that board meeting? How was the confrontation there? And I'm just going with it, and just painting the whole picture. And she comes and she stands right in front of me, and I'm talking on the phone. And men, when you look at your wife and you're in deep trouble, but you have no idea what's going on, that's exactly what happened. So I told my friend, I will call you back later, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe never again, but I've got something else I got to deal with right now. And so...
Yeah, it was from that point on that we learned we're not communicating very well.
Yeah.
So we had to change that.
She said something that really changed the perception in me. She says, you know what? She says, it's like having a great meal, and I'm coming to the table and you already have eaten your steak and everything, and you've got a few leftovers and you're putting it on my plate and you're saying, this is your dinner here tonight. That emotional word picture changed my thinking, where she, as my bride, my lover, my friend, does not deserve my leftovers. She deserves the best.
Amen.
That was a game changer in my thinking.
Yes.
All right. Number 6 is simplify your life and ministry. And I think this is something, no matter how long you've been in ministry, we always need to simplify our life, because life is complicated. Ministry is complicated. Church is complicated. Traveling, missions, everything is complicated. But we have to learn to continuously simplify, like diffusing and you simplify. That's the whole, almost like the reason why you have your quiet times, the reason why you get away for a weekend, the reason why you do all these things, and have quality time, is so you can simplify things and diffuse things.
Amen. We'll leave it at that.
All right.
Okay, go to the next one.
Go ahead.
Okay. You need to set realistic expectations. Recognize that you cannot do everything perfectly. And I think this is a big one for all of us who are ministers, whatever your ministry is, wherever you are. Please don't expect your children to be perfect. Do not expect your spouse to be perfect. Have grace for all of them. And don't let other people put those expectations on your children.
Yeah.
And this is a big one for us, because having 4 children and 2 young ladies, 2 girls in our family, and 2 boys, but especially my girls, for some reason, my congregation thought they had the obligation to tell my children how they should dress, how they should act, whether that looked good, whether that looked bad. It was hard. It was really hard. And so I looked at them and I said, look, these are my kids. And if you have something to say, maybe just rather say it to me. And I had to protect my kids. But I would get up in front of our congregation and say, listen, I want you to know my children are children, and they're going to make mistakes, and we're working on it, and we're doing the best we can. But if you want to help us out, rather come to us than not to our children.
I had some ministry expectations on my oldest son, because we talked literally for years how he will take over the ministry, and I can do some more apostolic work and travel and different things that I'm still doing now. And so when he decided that he's going to leave the church, he married his wife, and they're going to move to the States and all that, it was putting my Isaac on the altar. I mean, it was a game changer. I mean, I put him at the airport, dropped him off, and gave him a hug and a kiss. Went back to my office, had a couch there. I mean, I wept. I mean, I'm talking ugly cry. And it was something broke in me that day, and I was a broken pastor. I felt like all the different vision, charts and different things, I wanted to give up. I want to say, you know what? I don't need this. Go bag it. This is your people, God, your plan, your church.
Yeah.
And then what happened is the Lord spoke to my heart, and He said, now you can be his father and not his pastor. And that again was a word in season for me that really turned everything. Both my sons left our church to help other churches. And maybe because they were part of our church being founded, and part of the construction work of the early years. And now they're doing the same thing with other churches where they're at. And it's a great blessing.
And the amazing thing is both of our daughters, who would never want to get up and speak or do any of that, they really didn't like to get in front of a congregation, especially my oldest daughter, who's extremely shy, was amazingly, when she got into her own church, started speaking to other young moms and ended up being over there, all their young moms, all their care and their special small groups. And she even spoke in a conference, and I was like, yes, I'm so excited for her. And, she realized that it's not about her. And she realized that she had something to give. And I'm just so proud of her. I really am. And my youngest one, the same thing. She went on missions trips and was one of their main speakers. And it was so fun to see our kids just go for it. You know?
Even if you don't tell them, I want you to be in ministry.
Yeah.
There's just an unwritten expectation that kids will follow suit what the parents are doing. And they interpret it that way. They feel like the pressure, I need to be also in ministry, which is, of course, not the right thing. Hey, just moving on, so we're not going to miss too much time here. Number 8 is take care of yourself. I think this is so huge. Sandy has Sandy time, where she basically, even vacation sometimes, goes for a week somewhere. And I get away sometimes for a day, or just taking care. And you need to learn to kind of measure your gauge, your dashboard. And are you leading on empty? Where are you at? Do you need more sleep? Do you need, are you eating right? Are you exercising? All these different things to take care of your body. And if you don't do that, God will send someone to you and actually, remind you how important it is. The Sabbath, that's a whole different teaching, but it's amazing how serious God was with the Sabbath. You mess that one up, you get really into trouble with him.
And as missionaries, you have to be very careful that you don't mix ministry and say, oh yeah, we're going to have a vacation, and then you end up ministering at 5 different churches. That is not a vacation.
The first 13 years of our marriage and our lives, we never had a vacation. We had ministry trips. We never did a vacation. So when we did our first vacation, it was almost like, what do we do on Sunday? Were we speaking on Sunday? And people would ask, will you speak? I'm not speaking on Sunday. What?
Yeah, we're just attending church somewhere. Wherever we were, we attended church, but
and I remember
we never worked.
In an amusement park or something, and it's a Sunday, and I feel so guilty of thinking I don't know, I should be in church somewhere, and do some ministry. But again, it was a mindset that had to change in taking care of ourselves. Number 9, ask for help and support. I like something that Chris Hodges keeps saying, if you're the only one that knows your weakness and your troubles, that's your biggest, trouble, basically, your weakness. Other people need to know where you're weak at. Your spouse needs to know, and she does already know, trust me, where you're weak at, what you're not good at. And every now and again, she needs to get me in line. She needs to maybe come and say, hey, Des, how's your prayer life? How are you and God? How's your work life? And it's not often that she has to do that, or saying, you know what, you need to sleep. No, call in the office. I need you to do home. I need you to be, sleeping, resting, doing right. Because sometimes, again, I can fly into this mode of doing ministry, because ministry never stops. Missions never stops. It's always there. And it's good to have somebody that knows where you're at. And to be accountable, of course, to that, which is the 10th point, have regular check-ins and accountability.
Yes.
I think accountability is such a key word. Discipline by itself is almost impossible. If I'm addicted to donuts, all right, and I've got this bakery right outside of my little village there, and I can pray and claim and bind and loose, I will not eat any more donuts. And then I walk past that donut shop and I smell the fresh donuts. I can say, I will not, I know, let's just get thee behind me, stay in front of me. I mean, and eventually I'm standing there at the little counter. I'll have 2 of those, 1 of those, 3 of those, and while I'm eating them on the way out, thank you for delivering me. Thank you for setting me free. Well, discipline by itself is almost impossible, but accountability makes discipline easy. Because I have to face, Kevin, let's say Saturday morning we'll have breakfast or coffee, and he will ask me all these different questions. How's the donut thing going? And his last question is always, have you been completely honest with me? I don't want to be there going like, yeah, well, it was just 2. No, it was 5 donuts, I mean, I don't want to have that conversation. It's uncomfortable and I hate that. And so I would rather have the accountability so that my disciplined life is easy. Some of you, I know you are very disciplined. For you, it's a piece of cake. It's one decision and you can sail it. I don't do that. I need to have that accountability. I need to have friendships. I need to have people that can speak into my life and, of course, also speak into their lives.
Amen. That's good. That's
all
good.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope this has helped you. Like I said, it's very practical. It's not really the Greek and the Hebrew of certain things, but it's something that we lived through. It's something that's made our life function. That we can actually be 40 years, almost married next year, and go ahead and just still love ministry. And we've got years to go, and we actually love ministry. We love our kids. We love being together, and we love traveling together. And I think God has got some great things in the future for us. But this was some of the stepping stones and some of the guardrails that we had to set, and we learned it the hard way. Amen. Love you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.